Okay, welcome back to the Subspace Games YouTube channel. This is the second video in creating our game. Last video I made was a little bit too long. I'm going to try and put a little less content, spend a little less time blabbing my mouth, and more time on the actual content. So, let's kick it off. Alright, so the last time we were in the video, we had just put in a project, a game, a scene, and we got the AI going. The programming. So let's jump right back into the scene and add something interesting. So if we go to the Scenes tab in the game editor, we'll see that level 1 is there, loaded with the red X, meaning it's not in the scene viewer. So we double click on it and we bring it up in the scene viewer. We're going to go to create, because now we're going to start putting some interesting things in there. Let's put in the ball and the ground so we can get some basic interaction going. So this is a ball game. It's going to be where you bounce things off the walls and whatever and get to the target. So this is going to be the most basic thing in the game. So what I'm doing is going to create, model, shape. We're going to do a sphere. We're just going to call this ball, go figure. Okay, offset, this is like where you want it to be. We're just going to leave it at 0. We're going to leave the radius at 0.5. The segments, I might adjust down a little bit just to save on some polys. Let's see what happens when we do 16, see how it looks. Okay, create. So you'll notice that down here, now it's gone to the models folder in the data explorer and we have a ball. So if we want to see what that ball looks like, let's double click on it. Now this is opening up the ball within its own, this is showing us just the instance of that ball. The scene is now closed. When you double click on that, it loads this. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit, so I'm going to hold down the Alt key, right click with my mouse, and I'm just going to drag down and get a little bit closer so we can see what that ball looks like. Alright, so we don't really have much, it's just a ball so far, but I do know that I want it to be a dynamic object. I want gravity to work on it and whatnot. So in order to do that, you click on the ball to select it, you right click on it, you go to controllers, you go to dynamics, and you create controller. The green represents what the controller, or the radius of the controller. You can see it's a lot bigger than the ball. So I like to make it a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is go over here to the Scene Explorer. We're going to switch to the Attributes Editor, if you remember going over that. And there's now a tab for Dynamics Controller. So under Dynamics, you can actually change the shape of the dynamics, which I don't know why you'd want to make it a box, but there we go. We got a sphere. Here's the size. So we know our ball is 0.5. I'm going to make this 0.6. I like to make it a little bit bigger because it seems to interact better with the game. Now, one thing that is a gotcha is when you're doing a decimal, you need to put a 0 first. You can't put 0.6, you have to put 0.6. So 0.6, you'll see that it's kind of shrinking down. The other thing, just from experience, I know that because of the physics tries to work within the scale and everything that we have set up. So this ball is 0.5. I think the scale within Shiva, to match up with the physics and stuff, 1 unit is basically a meter. So this ball is relatively big. It's about half a meter. I think the mass is in kilograms. So if you look at this and the mass is 75, that's a pretty dense ball. So I'm going to move this down. If you think of like a ball, maybe it's got 1 kilogram. Maybe it's even less, but let's leave it on 1 kilogram. I know I want some bounce. We may have to come back and fiddle with this later, but I'm going to go ahead and put the bounce at like 0.2. It really doesn't take much with a light ball. Okay, let's just go down here and make sure everything's on. We have dynamics on, gravity's on, collisions are on. So that's good. Let's leave it like that. Let's go ahead and load up our scene now. You'll see that it wants us to save the ball. Yes, we want to save the ball. Now we just drag and drop. So boom, there's our ball in the scene. First thing I'd like to do is, it's already on the Attributes Editor and the ball is automatically selected, so I'm going to come over to Common Attributes and I'm going to change the translation. This is the actual location in the scene. It has a tendency to drag or to drop it where you dragged it, so it's kind of off. But in this case, I know that for right now I want it at, you know what, actually I'm going to move this up a little bit because we're going to put our ground in at 0 on the y-axis, which is the vertical. So I'm going to move this up like 5 units. So there. So now we're up about 5 units off what's going to be our ground. So that's a pretty good start for our scene. Let's go ahead and save the scene. Let's go back here and let's create another model. This one is going to be a shape again. We're going to do a box. I don't really like using planes because they kind of screw with the physics. And I'll tell you more about that later when we do the collision detection. But inner model name, let's just call this ground. Okay, offset 0, 0, 0. I'm going to make the size, yeah, so X, I want to have 10, Y, so I want it to be 1 meter thick, and then 10, so it's 10 meters on each side, a nice square. We'll create. Let's go ahead and load it up. So there we have it. Everything starts off as pink in Shiva. Eventually we're going to change the materials, but for now it's just going to be this pink color. It's great. So we're going to do the same kind of things we did with the ball. We're going to come in here and add some things that we need to it. So first thing is, if the ball is going to interact with it, it needs to be a collider so that it can collide. Makes sense. So a collision is, the collision attribute is an attribute. It's not a controller. So we go into attributes and we just make it a collider. So set as collider. It is now a collider. Let me think. Do we need to do anything else? Don't think so. That's going to be it. Yeah. So let's go ahead and load our scene again. Yes, we want to save the ground. Let's load the ground in. Boom. So like I said, first thing we want to do is go to the attributes for the ground. Let's change the translation to 0, 0, 0. And that should be good. So let's see what happens. So we have these play controls up here. I think I explained them to you before. Basically play, stop, restart, run one frame. What's cool about Shiva is you can actually, in the middle of your game, you can actually pause it, and then you can go in and you can edit it while it's paused, and you can move forward one frame, and it's pretty cool what you can do, and it comes in handy. So we're going to hit play. Yes, we're going to save the scene. Boom. Okay, so there we go. Gravity's working. The ball falls down to the ground. It gives a little bit of a bounce, not too much. It's about what we want. This is where we're going to cut off this video. So we've made some baby steps. We're getting there. Pretty exciting though, with relatively few commands and few things. If you noticed, I didn't do any code yet, other than in the first video we just told the game to load the scene. Once we put the objects in and we tell them how to behave by adding things like the dynamic controllers, which gives it gravity and stuff, and then telling the ground to be a collider, it just takes care of the rest of it. Shiva's smart enough to know what to do. So you're going to see, because of that kind of stuff, that as we start to develop, things are going to be pretty easy to implement. Most of the stuff that we really want as far as the gameplay in this particular game is going to be handled by default. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Just want to give another plug to my blog, subspacegames.com. Go there. Also, make some comments. I don't have too many comments on YouTube yet. I've had a lot of visitors, but I think I've only had one comment so far. So I'm doing this for you guys. I mean, I'm enjoying it as well, and I'm getting motivation out of it because I feel like I'm kind of accountable. But please leave some comments. Let me know how I'm doing. Am I talking too fast? Am I not doing enough content? Am I doing the wrong content? Let me know so that I can know that whether or not I'm doing a good job. Anyways, it's been great talking to you, and we'll see you next time.